back to our second part of our tutorial. If you remember, we left off here with our player. When we press play, we can just move him around. That's pretty much it. The camera follows pretty sturdily. And like I said, we're just going to have some basic jumping for this tutorial. Try and get him up on this platform and to the next. Our goal is this last platform at the end here, which I'm just going to quickly make red so we know that it's a goal. There we go. The coding this is pretty simple. This will probably be one of the shorter videos on the shorter side. So back in our update function up here, we're just going to want to create a couple lines here. Make a new if statement, if input. And there's a bunch of ways you can do this. I think there's a jump reference in Unity, but we're just going to do a key code. So what a key code is I'll show you. You can reference a specific key or button instead of having a preset button. So input dot get key down. The difference between these three, and I'm going to explain them, is when you get key down is when you press the button down, it calls the function once. Get key up is when you let the button up, it calls that function once you get the key up. And then get key is when you hold it down, so it'll constantly call the function if it's held down. That's very rarely used. You either want to use down or up just to save some frames, but get key can be used for some puzzles or like anything really that you can pick a mind to. So I'm just going to get key down, key code, and with our jump function, we're going to use a basic space. With brackets here and inside here. So what happens when we press space is what's going to happen inside these brackets. So when we press space, remember what I said, we're going to leave the y velocity at 0. So up here where it says 0, just so it doesn't mess with our jump, we're just going to want to do rb.velocity.y. So it doesn't mess with it. It's going to stay constant. Because if you have that at 0 when you're moving, you won't fall down. It'll just stay floating as you move. And then when you stop moving, that's when you drop. So inside here, we're just going to do another float at the top. Public float. And this one's just going to be jump height. We'll default it to 1 as well, just for basic reference. And inside here, inside our update and new key code space, rb.velocity is now going to equal new vector 2, just like at the top there. And instead of this one being edited, it's just going to be rb.velocity.x, so we don't want to touch that one, comma, jump height. And that's it. That should be all the coding that we need. We're just going to hop into Unity and make a quick test, and that should be it. There we go. So we notice that it's working. If you press space fast enough, you can kind of fly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our player here again, and I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to make the jump height, let's say 5. 5 seems reasonable. There we go. There we go. Still not high enough to make that platform though. So I'm just going to edit it really quick. There we go. There we go. And everything seems to be working. We're jumping up and down and we're moving left and right. Now there's one issue here. Now what happens when you keep pressing space? And this is why this is its own video. I can just keep going up forever and ever and ever. So in order to fix that, we're going to use a bool, the one that I referenced earlier, which is really, really useful. So back into Unity here, we're just going to create a bool. We don't need to make it public. This is just going to be a private bool, so it's not going to show up when you click on the script. That's the difference between public and private. When you make something public, you can edit it outside the code. Private, you always have to edit inside the code, or another code can reference it if you serialize it. Okay, let's make a bool called isJumping. I'll default it to false. Okay, down here at the space, input space, we're going to want to add a second requirement in order to jump. So and, two ands. There's also the 2 lines here, or. That's how I say it. You're not really supposed to say it like that. My apologies. So just and. So and right here means it has to meet both of these requirements in order for it to do the jump. The other one that I showed you, the or, means it could equal either be this requirement or the next requirement that I name, then it could still do it. So we're going to do if jumping is jumping equals false. So right now what we're saying is the player has to press space to jump, and he has to not already be jumping. And now if he's not already jumping, he's now jumping, so is jumping equals true. There we go. So now, if we tested this out right now, you'd only be able to jump once because we don't set it back to false yet. So what we're going to want to do here, this is a little different function here. So on the top right here where it says tag, we're going to want to add a new tag. Press a little plus sign on the top right here. We're going to name this tag ground. So it's going to be like a ground check. So if the player is touching the ground, he can then jump again. So back in here, we want to grab our 3 platforms here and then just click the tag here and select the new tag that we made. And the spelling and the capitalization is very important. You're going to want to remember that, okay? So there's a function in Unity. It's very useful. Void on collision enter 2D. It has to be 2D because we're playing a 2D game. And in this little function here, we're going to type if collision dot game object dot tag equals, we're going to do the quotes here, ground, has to match exactly how you spelled it, then is jumping equals false. Basically what we're saying is if the player is on the ground, he's no longer jumping. If you press space, he is jumping. So let me hop back into Unity. Should be able to reach our goal and press space many times. So I need to be pressing space as many times as possible, and I'm only jumping until I hit the ground here. I only set it in here, so I'm going to make this 10 real quick. So I should be able to get there, but I can't jump in the air. I'm not flying. I'm forced to just jump once. There we go. Let me know what you think of the video. If you want me to do something on like enemies like Mario, for example, you jump on them and they die, we could totally go that direction. Maybe level design or player design. But yeah, that's the end of this tutorial series. Thanks for stopping by.